Hi, this is a kind of a rant, not so much a rant, but just more of a discussion uh, concerning Linux and Linux, or however you want to pronounce it. Now, Linux is an operating system, as we all know, and it's the alternative to Windows. But there's been many operating systems made off the Linux kernel. Now, I've read some books on the Linux kernel, what exactly it does, and you can basically make a stripped down version of the Linux kernel, and there is such a thing. Now, this is where Linux came from. It's an operating system called Minix, Minix. Now, Minix is the original Linux. That's where Linux came from. Basically, back in the 90s or the 80s, a book was released called Operating Systems Design and Implementation, and with that book came an actual operating system with full source code under a certain, I don't know what, I think it was a GPL, I don't even know if a GPL license existed back then, but it was under a free license where you can replicate the source code as you want. And Linux Torvalds, he actually took that Minix and developed a networking stuff for it, and then it just grew from there. He was posting on the Minix forum. He soon developed his own Linux forum on the Altnet work, and that's how Linux was born back in the 90s or 80s or whatever. He basically came from Minix. Now, I actually have a Minix disk, and you can download it from our site as a VMware image, or you can go to minix.org and download the source code from there. Now, that's what Linux is all about for me, and as well as Minix. Linux and Minix is open source code. Now, what I always wanted to do when I was a teenager, and even before that, when I was a preteen, about 12 or 11, I would want to write on an Amiga system my own boot block, because everyone was writing their own boot sectors on the Amigas, because the code was out there, and there was making demos, and there was a big demo scene and a PD scene. PD means public domain. That's what we used to call open source back then, public domain. If it's PD, anyone can use it, anyone can download it, you can stick it, you can copy it, you can do anything with it. It was public domain. It was PD, man. PD wares. Anyway, that's what PD meant. Not PDA, but PD. And then came along, the PC, and we all hated the PC because it was lame, and the Amiga was much better, and still is much better, in fact. And the PC is very barely catching up with the technology we had back in the 80s and 90s, with such things as the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. What is it? 520? 124? I don't know. Now, I've actually just back in a few days ago actually realised my dream as a preteen 11-year-old of writing my own boot block. It only took me 20 years to actually do this. It took me 20 years to figure out how to write my own boot block. It involved learning source code, learning assembler, about the machine, everything. Basically, and what was holding me back is there wasn't the software out there to write to. It's all about the existing stuff anyway. It's all about writing to a floppy disk. Now, my laptop does not even have a fucking CD drive, let alone a floppy drive. And it boots from the USB stick. So I needed some, so I plugged in my external CD drive, and I needed something which would boot. Now that's what I'm diverging off, but that's what Linux is about basically. It gives you the opportunity to write your own software, especially an operating system. You're not supposed to be playing with that GUI. You're meant to shut that GUI down, get to the command prompt, go into the user directory, cd into the source directory, and start reading the source code. GUI? No, it's a security hole. You don't open the GUI. Xserver is shit. Compass Fusion is shit. That's all to get you hacked, basically. I will hack you. Others will hack you if you open that fucking GUI. Now that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is this. Basically, don't open the GUI. Learn the source code, write your own operating system. That's what open source movement is about. Sharing the source code. It's a godsend for programmers like me. Open source movement, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I love the open source movement. I'm not too keen about Linux or Linux. I think it's a load of shit. Now, I can do a lot better than that. I can write my own operating system, what will rock your world, and I am working on it. I'll probably be about 60 when it finishes, when I finish coding it. But it don't matter, because it's going to rock your world. Right, I'm out of here.